Welcome to Wealth Talk Podcast. We have amazing guests from all over Ontario and all over the world reaching out to us, and we're reaching out to as well, because the whole purpose of this platform is to give you insights of wealth creation, right? And one of the main things that everyone has to know is how to communicate. We're here with our special guest today, and I'm so grateful that she's here with us, Rahel Appiagyei-David. Thank you for joining us on Wealth Talk Podcast.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
All right. So we want to get into it. So with Wealth Talk Podcast, of course, we want to get in your mind. We want to know the information and knowledge that you have. But before that, we want to know who you are. Okay. All right. So we want to go all the way back, to when you were born. All right. Yeah. We go back. We go all the way back because we need to know you. So tell us, what was life like, as a child growing up? Things that you've learned that made you who you are now. So first and foremost, where were you born?
Okay, so we're going deep. All right, so I was born in Ghana. Okay. In a town called Kumasi. Okay. So if you know Ghana, Accra is our capital. Kumasi is like our Mississauga or our Brampton. Mm-hmm. All right. And the village or town that I'm from is called Asafo Kokofo. Okay. So that's where I was born.
Okay. Nice. My dad is from Bokro. My mom's from Kassi in Ghana. Okay. It's in the area, but it's all Kumasi,
yes,
for sure.
All Kumasi.
Yeah. Okay,
nice.
So that's amazing. So you were born in Ghana, and talk about that. Like, what was that like growing up in Ghana?
Well, I came here when I was young, and my memory of Ghana is in snippets, just because I remember being around family all the time, and I had my favorite auntie. As long as she was around, I was gonna be on her back and wrapped up. Yeah. So that was my favorite thing. Okay. I was definitely loved and spoiled. Around family all the time. So I came to Canada in the 80s. Okay.
How old were you at this time?
I would have been 5. I think I just turned 5. Okay. Yeah. So my dad came here a year before. My mom and my siblings and I, and he sent for us. It was interesting how my dad came to Canada because he ran a business in the market, and one of his business partners was like, "Hey, I'm going to Canada tomorrow. You want to come?" And my dad's like, "Okay." So
so it just randomly. Okay, wow.
It was not planned.
Okay.
But my dad said he always remembered learning about Canada in school, and he always thought about. He never thought about going there. So when the opportunity came, he took it. Okay. He's a risk taker, as you could see. Yeah. I think I probably adopted a little bit of that from him.
Nice.
So I came to Canada as the eldest. At the time, my mom just had my third sibling, and so I would take care of him, and they would go to work.
Okay, so hold on, before we get deeper into that. So your dad was invited to come to Canada. Yeah. From Ghana. He went to Ghana. Was his intention to stay, or was it just to go take a look? Like, what was?
So at the time, my understanding is he wanted to figure out how Canada works before he brings his entire family. My mom was also expecting when he was leaving. Okay. So I have to big up my mom because she really had to trust my dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
To leave her with 2 kids and one on the way. So he came with his friend and kind of figured out, I understand they were in Montreal for a little bit, try and figure out how Canada is. He worked, saved up money, and then sent for us. So that's how it worked, yeah.
So over there, you said he had a business, he had a market. So what did he do? Just shut that down and just go, or?
Pretty much. Okay. You see, so the year that I was born, and just during that time frame too, a lot of Ghanaians were coming to Canada because we were under a coup with Rawlings. I don't know if you've heard of Rawlings. And so my dad used to tell me stories of like the military coming and beating up people because they were blaming inflation on the business people and claiming that they weren't selling things at the right prices. So there's a little bit of history as to why it was favorable.
So he had the business, but he's seen there, right now it's like a lot of resistance against his business. So it wasn't going to flourish the way he wanted to. So the opportunity came for him to go look at a new place, and he went and
Yeah, and he took that chance because imagine right now Canada's in a state of high inflation
right now.
Imagine somebody or the military, the Canadian military, walking through your business doors and beating you up and saying because of your sales or whatever it is or the prices you're charging, you're causing this inflation and that's the punishment. That's how they're dealing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So that's
even though it's not the same thing, but I did hear that is kind of happening in Canada where a lot of people are saying, oh, the cost here is too high. And certain people are like moving to like Dubai and different places. So it's similar. They're kind of looking for another opportunity. So that's pretty much what you have. So so his intention was, I'm going to go there, and if it's good, I'm bringing my family.
100%.
Okay.
So he came for us. And I remember when I came to Canada, we landed in Montreal. So we were in Montreal for I think like 2 weeks or whatever. And this is the first time I'm on a plane and all these things. And sometimes my parents would tell me stories. Like my mom was like, the way I was eating on the airplane, I was just so open to all the meals, and the way I had control of my fork and knives and stuff, she was really like astonished to see me just like adapting so quickly to the change. But I remember when I saw my dad at the airport, he looked familiar, but I didn't recognize him.
Oh wow!
And it was only a year that I hadn't seen my father.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So he was here for a year and he was working and and then when he called for you, didn't recognize him.
I did not recognize my father when I saw him a year later.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, I was about 5, so like
and then the baby obviously never even met him before.
No.
That's a big big risk to take, right? For sure.
It is.
And then go on from there.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like you were kind of looking after your siblings or something like that?
Yes. So one of the reasons why, like I have a younger sister. Remember I was saying there's 3 children, and one of the reasons why my parents said they brought me and left my sister because they couldn't bring all of us together was because as the eldest they thought I'd be able to take care of the youngest. So learning English was a struggle for me because there's times I had to miss school, and I remember I can't remember which grade it was, but I had this teacher. We were living in Etobicoke at the time, and I thought she hated me. She would force me to stay after school, do my homework, like all of these things. I remember one time my mom came to the school looking for me because it was way past school finish time, and she hadn't heard from me. And this is before cell phones, like all that kind of stuff. Plus, my English wasn't that good. I want to emphasize that. So she had to come and get me because this teacher was very intentional about making sure I understood English, I could read and write English. And now I appreciate it, but at the time I was like, this teacher hates me. I don't know why she hates me, But now in retrospect, I'm like, okay, she really did love me and really wanted me to do well in life, So, so from there, I guess improved my command of the English language, and our family moved. We moved a few times. Like I remember we moved to Driftwood one time, and then the final place we moved to, this is in Toronto, was Jane and Finch. Jane and Driftwood or Grand Ravine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Jane and Grand Ravine. So that's where I spent the rest of my childhood, going to elementary school, and I always thrived at school. Like I loved learning, and every opportunity I had to teach or support others, I took it. Okay. So in elementary school, I was a safety patroller. I would walk students across the street during lunchtime and after school.
Oh, nice.
I would do morning announcements. And then as I got into higher grades, I would help like the grade 1 and 2 teachers marking math assignments or help the younger students with reading. Like once I got English, it was over from there.
Nice. Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. So and that makes sense why you're deep into communication, because all these little things, communication and also teaching.
Yes.
So you always jump in to teach. Whenever there's an opportunity for you to teach, you want you taught. Okay.
Yes, teaching is my superpower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I enjoy doing it, and for some reason, I don't know, people learn.
So then your parents probably seen that, and that's why they made you responsible for taking care of your siblings and things like that, right? So I would take it they were learning from you as well, right?
Oh yeah, I had to help my parents even navigate the Canadian system. So as much as they were the adults, I was more integrated into the Canadian system because I started to go to school here and making friends, and because I was so engaged in community. So I started forming my own relationships and friendships, and I was a better help and support to my parents as well. So I don't know if they saw that, they must have, but
of course,
I'll have to ask them.
But
But I also think their parenting style, it both went hand in hand. So the type of child I was in terms of my personality and how they parented me, because my parents were very, you have African parents, so you know, they're very deliberate and intentional. Like even our names are based on the days that we're born. You know what I mean? My parents always told me, you're the oldest. You need to be an example for your siblings. We brought you to Canada to go to university. You need to learn this so you can be a good wife. So all the indoctrination, but they are good things. And just teaching me things like patience. And you need that to teach. You need to be very patient. Something I'm always working on. And then just grace. Being gracious with other people, thinking about others, being thoughtful. So all of those things went hand to hand into shaping who I was as well. Yeah.
Okay, so even right now, tell me about some experiences, at that time. Because we're leading up. Because right now I'm getting all of the community. I understand why you're deep into what you do now.
Okay.
Right, but tell me some experiences that you've gone through, like in a younger age and coming up, to help mold who you are now.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit further back. So I remember I was in kindergarten or junior kindergarten. I can't remember. But it was like I was much younger, and I was playing with a toy. Now, just to give you a visual, when I came to Canada, for the most part in Ghana, girls, especially when we go to school, we shave our head, right? So my hair was like yours. Yeah. I wasn't in like the best clothes or any of those things. I had immigrant parents who came here. As long as you had clothes, you're good. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I spent a lot of time by myself, actually. And I'm really comfortable being by myself, even now as an adult. So I was playing with toys, and this girl came and snatched the toy from my hand. And I don't remember if I said anything to her, but at this time my English wasn't good, or I couldn't speak any, right? And so anyway, whatever happened, she did not give me back the toy, so I bit her.
Oh.
And I got in trouble. She started it. But I couldn't tell the teacher, like, this is what happened. Of course, they can only see my action, right? Which I'm not saying that was the best thing to do. But I wasn't troubling nobody. She came to me. So I feel like from there, I was really determined to learn how to communicate and get command of the English language. I wanted to always be able to say what I want to say, how I want to say it in a way that people will understand. And so this meant that at a very young age, I started writing. I would read books. Like, this is just all self-motivated. Thank God, right? So I started reading children's books, and then I would write my own stories and illustrate them. I don't know if did you go to school in Canada?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so back in the day, and I don't know if they have those books now. I think I've seen one or two of my children with them. There was those books that had lines on the bottom, and then on the top it's blank. So you write on the bottom and draw at the top of the page. Those were my favorite books.
Yes. So you have like something written in a picture that kind of explains what you've written, right?
Well, it was blank, so you could draw the picture.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I got it.
So those were my favorite books. I would write my own stories, and my mom has been very fundamental in being open to my learning. Like when I shared and showed things with her, she was always impressed, or always act impressed. I don't know which one. And she was like, did you write this? I said, yeah, I wrote this. This is my story. I made it up. And she's like, this is so good. Like, she would always be very encouraging. So that made me feel good.
You want to do more, right?
Yes, and I wanted to do more. So I would write more stories and things. I wish I still had those books. I don't even know where those things would be right now. So as I became older, I also remember I get very emotional. So sometimes when I don't know, they call it empathy now. We didn't have all that language back then. I find myself very empathetic. So just for an example, I was watching, oh my gosh, what's this show called? America's Got Talent with my children.
Okay.
And you know how sometimes people share their stories on America's Got Talent and why they're there and why they want to win. So I was tearing up and my children are like, Mom, seriously? They're like, are you crying? Like, that's me, okay? So because I'm that way, sometimes it's very difficult to express myself the way that I hope. So in order to better channel my thoughts and also not control my emotions, but I guess redirect my emotions, I also wanted to have a better command of the English language and how to communicate. So from a very young age, I just promised myself I was going to be a good communicator and I was going to learn this thing called English, and I was going to be able to do it in a way that, you know, made it easy for people to know and understand me.
Wow. So at what age would you feel that, okay, I know this language? Like how old were you when you felt like, okay, you're confident, you could talk, you know the language, you could explain yourself?
To be honest, I feel like it's a language I continue to learn. Even now, I've been in Canada over 30 years, and I can't say that I'm 100% confident. English has become my dominant language. Right now, I speak 3 languages. I mean, if you add patois, you could say 4. Okay.
Okay, what are the others?
So I speak Cree.
Yeah.
When we came to Canada, my brother and I used to be highly annoyed by my father, but he would be like, this week, no one is speaking English in my house. And we're like, oh God, you know. But I'm glad he did that because it forced me to continue to speak Cree and be able to express myself in Cree. Although Ghanaians say I speak Cree with an accent, I can't win, okay? When I went to Ghana and I was speaking to them, they're just laughing. I'm like, do you guys not understand what I'm saying? They said they do, but you have an accent. I'm just like, okay, so.
Because you've been here for a while, so.
I've been here, but they're really impressed that after so long I still speak Cree.
Yeah, exactly.
So I still speak Cree. That's my mother tongue, and as you know, English. And when I was in university, my dad has always encouraged me to learn French because we're in Canada.
Yeah.
So he's like, you understand English now learn French. So I knew if I didn't do it in school, I'd never do it. So I took a really big risk, and it really impacted my grades actually.
Wow.
And I went to a bilingual campus, York University Glendon campus.
Okay.
And so I learned French while I was in university doing my honors.
Oh wow! So you learned French at a later age too. Okay.
Yes.
Because usually when you're younger, you could adapt and understand it better.
Yes.
But wow, okay, that's amazing.
It was a big risk. I started this conversation by saying I'm a risk taker.
Yes,
and I learned that from my father. Right?
Okay.
So I have like a good foundation in French. My French is a little bit rusty, but for the most part, I can engage and understand some things. But it's not as strong as it used to be because I don't use it as much.
Yeah. But you're still developing that language as well.
Yeah, I'm still developing that language, and I think if and when I do have opportunities, I'm in like a francophone space and things, there's certain things that I can at least communicate or pick up. I remember one time randomly I was in Toronto and there were 3 people, I guess they were tourists, trying to figure out where to go, and I was able to tell them in French. And I was like, ooh, I'm surprised that I still, have it, but like, yeah, it's not as strong as it used to be.
Okay, well, talk about the languages though. Like, why is it important to have, to know different languages?
Okay, I think knowing different languages allows you to communicate with more people in a way that they understand. I think that's number 1. And number 2, it also gives you opportunities to be helpful in different ways. Like I said, the folks in Toronto who I was able to give them, a little bit of instruction in French. And even with the very tiny Spanish that I know, because when we were in elementary school, we used to go to Spanish classes after school.
Okay.
And I won't say I was, but those students were bad. And so the teacher spent more time disciplining than teaching, because these students were just not, maybe once in a while I got it. Maybe. But yeah, so languages allow you to connect with other people. So when I went to Mexico with my husband, I was able to do like just common stuff like "Cómo estás?" and things like that with the people. And you can see that people change when you're able to connect with them where they are, right? Even small, like a greeting. Yeah. Look how people responded in Jamaica when Obama said, he greeted them in Patois,
they're celebrating it.
Exactly.
It's good.
It gives people a sense of connection to you now, where it's like, okay, so they're like me in some way, or they appreciate me enough to at least know one or two things about me. So
that's true. Because even here, we're in Brampton,
yes,
right? And even with the Indian community, if you say like Sasrika, they light up, because it's like, okay, you have an interest in their language, right? 100%. And that's pretty much you going and learning these languages. You're more embraced, I guess, when people are speaking the languages, right?
100%. So, and then just in terms of, if we talk about like economics, I know there's certain jobs I've had where if people spoke a specific language, they got paid $1 or $2 more the exact same thing that I'm doing in English. Or there's, especially in like the social service sector now, depending on what's going on immigration-wise, if you speak a language of like, when we had folks from Syria coming over, and we needed people in social work who spoke Arabic. Some of my students, I guess I'll come back to students and teaching. But some of my students were like, Rahel, there are opportunities out there, but they don't want Arabic speakers. Or there was a time where there was a large influx of Nigerians coming to Canada from the US, and they wanted folks that identified with that culture and all that too. So it gives you, what's the word I'm looking for? Like competitive edge too. To be able to communicate in multiple languages.
That's true. Like, I know that here in Canada as well, like the French language, so much more positions are open. Yes. One of our wealth creators within Create Wealth Network, she's from Cameroon. I believe Cameroon, they speak French, right?
They do.
And there's pretty much she always has work, because 100%. Because you could speak another language. It's like you automatically have work, right?
Yep, 100%. So I think that for all those reasons, it's good to know as many languages as you can. And I have I enrolled my daughters into French immersion, but boy, those people. They are just so laid back about learning French. I was hoping that if they learn French, I could continue to practice with them. But
what about Tree? Are they learning?
Tree is also very minimum, very minimum. But they know how to like greet in Tree and say what their name is and ask how are you, like the basic, bare minimum. So I wish that they were able to learn more. But we have some books from Ghana. I always ask my mom to bring books that they can learn from and we can read together. And also helps me to brush up on my Tree reading, which is needs some work. But
so even with myself, when growing up, it's interesting. It's good that your dad told you, hey, you guys have to speak Tree. With my parents, I think it was more of a fitting in. Right, so they wanted us to learn English. Right, so at home they didn't really speak Tree to us as much. And I remember my uncle told me one time when he was trying to speak Tree to us, and then my dad told me, "Oh no, let them learn English. Right, but then it's understandable, because at that time, like around similar to when your parents came, I think my parents came like late 70s. They more wanted to fit in. Right, but now with my children, I want them to learn Tree, because growing up, like I there's conversations and things, and I want to be a part of it, and I can't really be as much a part of it. My wife, she was also grew up here as well, but she speaks Tree and she understands it. And since I've been with her, I would say I've been learning more. And even with my children, I've been learning more now, because I try to teach them what I know. Right, so I think, yeah, definitely it's something that, we got to keep passing on, to next
100%.
generations, right?
100%. So should I test your tree right now?
Hey, I don't know what, hey, I may understand. There's a high chance I'm going to understand, but speaking back is like, I guess my confidence, just like you're saying when you went to Ghana and they would laugh, I think that kind of discouraged me in terms of being confident to speak it. But at home I'll speak. Soon I'll be ready to speak it on the outside, but I want you to talk about that too, because you're here and you're a communication expert, right? And when there's a lack of communication, sometimes people aren't as confident, right? And I want you to, is that something that you experience maybe with your clients and your students when they come in, and as they learn to communicate more, like it boosts the confidence, right? I would assume.
I think confidence in communication is the biggest thing. You have to be confident to, first of all, even speak, if we're talking about verbal communication. When I train on communication through my business, 1000 Training Consulting, what I do is I equip people with the principles of communication. Because the thing is, we all think we can communicate, but we can't actually. And communication is something that has evolved over time. And it can change depending on where you are and who you're with. Okay? So some of the things that I talk about is what is communication and what is effective communication. Those are two different things, right? So, okay, fine. Let's say we know how to communicate, but do we know how to communicate effectively? And the difference between communication, okay, first communication is just basically sending and receiving information. But understand that it's not just verbal. There's also nonverbal communication. Okay, so there's two ways of communicating, and then under those two ways, there's different ways. We call them modes of communication. Under that, so I teach them about that to understand that basics. And the next thing is, now that we know what communication is, how do we do that effectively? Effective communication is not only us sending and receiving information, but increasing the probability that the person is going to respond in the way that you intended. So you can communicate with me and say, okay, Rahel, meet me here. Right? And I will know that you want me to come somewhere. But I will need more information. What else would you have to share with me?
The address or something like
Exactly. You might give me landmarks. You might give me a time. Those kind of things. So if you ask me to meet you, I might get in my car and be like, hi. But if you tell me, okay, meet me here at this time, then I'll show up on time. That's increasing the probability. You know what I mean? You've given me landmarks, so now it's increasing the probability that I won't get lost, or if I do, at least I'll be in the area. Those kind of things. And it's also important to understand that if you communicate, there isn't a response, that is still a response. So it either means like the individual hasn't received the message, they don't understand the message, or they didn't know that the message was intended for them, or they don't even know why you're sending them the message. Like there could be so many reasons, and so you then have to follow up or whatever, do whatever is necessary. But so I start with those fundamentals, and then we talk about things like the principles of communication. What I love about teaching people about communication is no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you do for a living, these skills can apply to everything. So I've done effective communication training for entrepreneurs. I've gone to different, I'm forgetting what you call them. They're just like spaces for people that are starting businesses and things like that, like startup organizations. And I've done effective communication training for them. The most recent one I did was for Futurepreneur. They had a group of entrepreneurs from across Canada, and I did an effective communication for them. And I talked about something as simple as invoicing. Like, we're all in business. We want to make sure we get paid. We love what we do, but we need to pay our bills. But I get entrepreneurs who send me invoices all the time without letting me know how to pay it. So they've just let me know I owe them money. Great. Thank you for letting me know that. Do you want the money? Okay, nowhere on this invoice does it say these are the methods of payment or any of that. And they were like, oh. So I said, yes, go check your invoices. You're wondering why you're getting late payments. You understand? So communication in everything we do. And then, I spoke to them about their websites. What was their intention? What was the action? What is the goal? So I think that just to sum up communication, a lot of time we think that communicating is enough and that's where we start. Oh, I let them know. But where we should start is, what do I hope to achieve? And then we communicate based on that. We take the appropriate, steps.
That's deep. No, honestly, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack. Much. I want to get into that. So with what I want you to get to when you started this company, what was the motivator that made you start, and what happened, what is it, and I want you to go through that process of starting, because it's clearly very important.
It is.
Right? And the details of what you're saying, and I was thinking surface. I was thinking you're just thinking about communicating. But when you're talking about details such as invoicing, website, no, that's true. Right? And even not communicating is communicating, right? Because even right now and we're living in that social world, right? And sometimes people will send someone a message on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, and they'll get no reply, right? Why are they getting no reply? All these things. This is what I'm thinking. Why is you talking? I'm Lee, all this. This is all part of communicating. So what was it that made you say, this is what I'm getting into?
Okay, I love to tell this story. So first, whenever I tell people the name of my company is 1-1000, they're like, 1-1000? I'm like, yes. So I'll tell you where the name came from. You know how I was saying when I was younger, I was in everything, helping here, helping there. So whenever my mom would learn of all the things I'm doing, because I was always sharing with her, she would be like, oh, 1-1000. And she would always say that, no matter what I said to her. So as a teenager now, I've been hearing it for years. I was like, Mom, why do you always call me that? So she's like, you're one man, you're doing 1,000 things. So, and that has always been a thing about me. I need to do multiple things. I don't know what it is, but I get bored and I don't like to be bored. So I keep myself active in that way. So that's where the name of my company came from, 1-1000. And I really believe that if we give people the fundamental communication tools, now I've also added project management and consulting, then they can be one person and do 1,000 different things. I really, really believe that. The reason why I chose effective communication, when I was a teenager, I used to deliver workshops. There's an organization called the Toronto Youth Cabinet I used to volunteer for, do civic engagement across the city of Toronto. And we had a capacity building training series that our staff at the time, she was Ange Kinnear at that time, but I can't remember, she's rechanged her name recently, but she got some funding to train all the youth on how to do different things like, media interviews, how to create workshops, all these different things. And I was there for that. After that, I was able to create and deliver workshops that were engaging. Young people loved them. And I loved doing it. It was a way to create. And so when I started going to university, it was a lot for me. So I kind of pulled back on volunteering in sports and all the things I was doing. But the city of Toronto had some projects going on, and they remember me as a young person delivering, and they wanted me to deliver these workshops for these young people. And then the Toronto Public Library heard about me, and then they wanted me to do workshops. And then they said they would pay me. So as a young person in university, you are asking me to do something I love, and you're gonna pay me? Yes and yes. So from there, I started thinking to make this into a business, because remember how I said my parents would indoctrinate me with different things? One of the things that they always said to me was, Rahel, if you're going to make it in Canada, you need to have a business. They would always say that to me. So I said, if people are coming to me and they're throwing money at me to do this, I might as well make it into a business. So that's really how my business was birthed. And I was on mat leave with my second son, and I said I would register it officially. So I was doing it a little bit before I actually registered as a sole proprietor. And then, so that was about 14 or 15 years ago. And since then, I've transitioned the business to not just go out and deliver workshops. But then I would do in-house. I transitioned to like business to business now, where organizations, not-for-profits and businesses who already had training but needed someone to deliver, they hired me. They already had the space, all of that, and I would deliver for them. And then the most recent thing was now taking my effective communication training and facilitation as well, especially during COVID. I created an online facilitation and how to effectively facilitate. I created an online course for that, and so now it's digitalized for people to buy, because I can't be in all the places.
Yeah, exactly.
And then people need effective communication all over the world as well.
Yeah.
As I developed myself, so I received a certificate in project management. I then added project management to my business portfolio. And I only do projects that have a social impact. So one of the projects I've worked on was like a collaboration with a business called How She Hustles. We were doing a national series on female entrepreneurs and just giving them exposure, talking about how to run a business, what are some of the challenges, what are some of the solutions. And so that was in partnership with CIBC, Futurepreneur, and at the time they were Ryerson DMZ, now they're TMU. So yeah, that helps female entrepreneurs. One of my current clients is Black Moms Connection. Okay. And they're an online global village of over 30,000 Black mothers. Wow. All exist on a Facebook group. We have like Black Moms in Asia, Black Moms in US, Black Moms in Canada, Caribbean, Africa. And so they have a project called Financial Literacy Universe, and I help them develop that in Ontario and expand it to other provinces in Canada. So yeah, project management is under my portfolio, and I have a team of women who are interested in being independent contractors or starting their own business. And so I plug them into these projects so that I also coach them on how to do their roles, how to run a business, how to invoice, while also helping my clients on their projects. So everything I do feeds into others and develops them, while they support and help what I do. Like it's just a part of who I am.
Wow, that's amazing. And honestly, it aligns so much with the MAP book and the program we have, because you're creating through service.
100%.
So go deeper into that. Why is it so important that you're in service all the time?
That's a good question. I think about that often, and maybe sometimes I struggle with it. There's so many things that come to me about that. One, serving comes to me naturally. I don't know if it's because I'm Ghanaian, because Ghanaians we're very service-oriented people. So is it a part of my DNA and my heritage? Maybe a little bit of that. Also, as my position in my family, being the eldest and literally having to serve my siblings and my parents, to the point where my siblings don't see me as a sibling. You're like a mom. So I think maybe like life groomed me in that way. And the most important thing is I always believe that we have to be the change. If we want to see something better or improved, we have to do that. And I believe in action. So it can be exhausting sometimes. Because I can't do everything. And I think that's why I like to teach others. And even as a parent, I try to duplicate these values that I hold in my children. And find people who share those values. Because even from like a faith perspective, I'm a Christian, and I believe that whatever we do, like God can't come down, well, I mean, he can, I guess, but he's created us to be an extension of him, and so I think that's my way of being an extension and a reflection of who God is in people's lives, and there's nothing wrong with being compensated for that, because I'm being compensated for it, I can help build up other people and compensate them. You know what I mean? And replicate and continue to create.
That's a law of compensation. The law of compensation is service, right? Service, and in exchange, you get compensated, right? And that's something that I guess is not communicated to people properly, because a lot of times people are focused on the money, right? And not the actual service aspect of it. right? But many people go through experiences where you'll notice if you're going for the money, a lot of times it goes quickly, right? But when you're going for the service and you're serving, then you get CIBC calling you. Then you get all these people just reaching out to you because they see, oh wow, this person, like they're noticing the work that you're doing 100%. And the service that you're doing, and they just want to be a part of that, right?
100%. People respect results, and there's lots of training or consulting organizations out there, bigger than me, smaller than me. But I know that my organization is different because of how we approach things, and just understanding that at the end of the day, it's not only just the results, but it's how you get to the results that also matters. How we treat people also matters. So I'm very selective about who I work with too, to be honest with you. I don't take on all clients because values matter to me, and how you treat people matters to me. And that, when I say how you treat people, I don't mean just me. I've worked with clients who I had to talk to them about how they talk to their staff because I don't work like that.
Yeah.
So those kind of things stay with me, and it's reflected in my business. And anyone on my team that works with me, I ask them what gives them joy, because that's an interview question. Because in order for you to work with me, I want you to wake up happy, like I'm gonna be doing this.
Yeah, right? Excited to go, get up and go for the day, right?
And joy is contagious. If I come to work with joy, I'm definitely going to communicate with you better. I'm definitely gonna have better results. You're going to have better experience with me. So those are all the different values and how they play out through my business every day.
Wow, that's amazing. You were just talking about being results oriented, and you were talking about how you've seen some people like how they were talking to their staff, right? So and you said that's not how I work, right? So I want to know your process, because you mentioned that for me before when you said when you communicate, you got to communicate effectively. You have to go in with kind of intention. Run me through the process of how you work and what your expectations of your clients, to work. What's that process like?
Okay, so one of the things I've been doing recently, and I'm learning to do more of it too with my business, is putting in processes and automation. This is where we're going. And just in general, I find with the Black community, we're usually one of the last to know and learn about these things in the industry. So I don't want to be behind. I really want to understand and incorporate and apply them. So this year I launched a new customer relationship management platform that allows people to put a request into my website. It automatically sends it to me and my team with the clear what is it that they're looking for: training, project management, what is their budget, what is their timelines, just like 4 or 5 questions. We can follow up with them, immediately schedule a meeting. After we schedule the meeting, then we decide, are we sending you a proposal and an invoice? I remember one of my clients, they're like, oh, I love your system. I just had to click, sign, done. So even making that the process of someone choosing to pay me enjoyable.
Of course, for sure.
All that matters. And so a lot, and especially because I think during COVID, my business did very well, and so we've kind of predominantly stayed virtual. So it meant I incorporated other programs like Google Drives just to work with my team, have the meetings, and the online calendars, Calendly, stuff like that. So we work virtually. I think I wanted to go back to a little bit of the mode of communication. So it's just as important for us to have conversations, but it's also important for us to have written, documentation to follow up. So whatever it is that my client and I agree on, I always make sure it's documented and sent to them to see. Right? After our conversations, because sometimes you can understand something one way and I understand another way, but when it's on paper, it's like, oh, wait a minute. This is what I meant. Or so communicating in different modes, verbally, non-verbally, and even in pictures or videos, which my online courses are in video. Those things are also important as well. For those that purchase so this is just like consulting, training, project management stuff. But for those that don't engage with me directly and they buy my courses online, it's like all there. They register, they put in their information, they pay. They can watch the video of the course, they can play the audio of the course, or there's a book. I'm trying to engage people.
Okay, so you have different ways of
Yes, and they have all three if they want all three.
Yeah.
Right. So again, I'm very intentional about practicing what I preach and being an example, because if I can do it and I tell you to, then you're like, oh, Rahel could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said that to me. To be that example. So. So that's the process for consulting and training services, and that's the process for those just purchasing online. And
wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And like within our program, like we have something called the Focus 11, right? And in the Focus 11, like these are 11 aspects that we focus on in life. And one thing that like throughout this whole interview with you, I noticed that you're talking is you have an emphasis on learning. Right. Number one, from your parents.
Yes.
I noticed that you learn a lot from your parents, and then also from your studies and your schools and all these programs and certificates that you got. So like talk about the importance of that.
So I really believe that learning doesn't just happen in the classroom, but classroom learning is important, because yes, I want a doctor that has done the education necessary to assist. Right. I think I learned in so many different ways. So for example, when did COVID happen? 2019? 2020.
2020, yeah. 2020.
The last 2-3 years or whatever is just one blur to me. Post and pre-COVID. But
I wonder if we're still over, but I think we're over it. Right? Every so often I still see someone in a mask. I'm like, are we over it? But yeah.
So yes, you're right. I've done my education. I've also been a professor at Sheridan for like 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Right now I'm working at Toronto Metropolitan University, developing a course for them on how to make change using policy and all that kind of stuff. So I'm even working in academia in addition to my business and offering training. Like you're right, learning is all around me. I went to university. I did my honors degree in international studies. And I wrote my thesis on Ghana for life, so and the underdevelopment of Ghana. So even when in university, we had an option of doing our thesis or doing like a placement. All of those things are learning. As a professor at Sheridan, I kind of leaned towards the experiential learning, where I was able to support my students with preparing to go to placement and creating a classroom environment before COVID in person. But during COVID, I had to actually convert it all to online and teach them it through online ways and learn all these online tools to teach them these practical professional skills and principles of social work and all of that to apply in the field. So I think that experience and examples are the best teachers, and people tend to click better when they have that. And it's important also to know how people learn culturally. If you check, a lot of people of African descent and indigenous folks learn best through like stories and like examples and experience. Whereas other cultures, they just need you to read something or just to present something and they got it. So it's important to incorporate all those different layers and aspects of learning. I like to share this story where I was teaching a class and it's mixed with international students from like Nigeria, predominantly India too, especially being in Brampton, had a lot of international students from India. Some of them were from like Hong Kong and all of that. So I would always encourage my students to, participate in class, put up your hand, ask questions, all of that. My international students from India tended not to do that. So I would call on them and I'm like, I'm not picking on you, maybe I am, but I want you to participate. And I was always surprised because they knew so much and I couldn't understand why they wouldn't put up their hand. So one of my students, I was very grateful. He came to me after class and he's like, Rahel, in India, we don't raise our hand because it's seen as disrespectful to our professors, and it's like we're challenging them. So if you want us to participate, you have to call us, because we're not used to, us putting up our hand. It's not seen the same way here as we see it back home. So again, all of these elements, like there's this diagram of communication that I share when I'm doing the training, and I show the process of communication, and all the way from the sender to the receiver.
Okay.
And then there's an arrow going back, which then has like the context, but you also need to add the cultural context. So if we can get that entire process almost perfect. I don't know if communication can ever, but we can get it. The better we can do that entire process, the more probability that we'll get the response or the outcomes that we're looking for as well. So I'm sharing that story to show you that as much as, yes, I have the formal education, I'm learning every single day. Every single day. And I'm also learning from the people I teach. I don't come into any classroom or any space thinking I know everything. There's always so much to learn. And I think one of the words that a lot of people have used to describe me is humble. In order to learn, you need to be a humble person, right? Because
it's true, it's true,
So I think that's another value that I walk with is humility, and because I understand that I don't know everything, and even my children, I learn from those people. Don't tell them, okay? They're gonna watch this video.
That's good,
Right, and understanding that there's always something to learn from anybody and anywhere, right? The formal education is not the only education. But it's good to have, I think, a collection of all of it. Yes, okay, maybe you might start learning some stuff on YouTube and you realize I'm really interested in this. Let me actually go take a class. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can, I guess, blend your learning. So I also like to learn through travel. Travel teaches me so much about like the world and even myself. I remember a few years ago, my husband and I went to New York for my birthday, and our taxi driver told me he was from Nepal, and I was able to greet him in his language. He like turned around. He was so shocked, like
no one spoke his language before.
And I was surprised that I remembered, because I had been working with so much immigrants at the time in a newcomer program that I used to do recruitment for. And those things stuck with me, because every time I met a newcomer, I always asked them, how do I greet you in your language, right? I was very intentional about that to make them feel, welcome, whatever. And then my last trip before COVID, I went to Ghana. And I remember on my way to Ghana, I went through Switzerland. I went to Switzerland, and then from Switzerland, I went to Belgium. Each time I went through the, the security, all the things you gotta do to put your bag, all of that. They were always doing small talk with me, like, oh, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to Ghana. And they're like, oh, so you're going back home? I'm like, I've been in Canada for so long, I never really thought about Ghana as my home, you know? And I was like, I guess. I guess. So now I get to Ghana, and I went to South Africa for a little bit too. And I came back to Ghana, and then from Ghana I came back to Canada. And all my experiences, I reflected on it. One, I learned that no matter how long you've been away from your country, yes, it is your home. Because when my aunties and everybody saw me, it was like I never left. I belonged. Everybody looked like me. Well, they look better than me. They're just beautiful. I was like, I was staring. And then other things that I noticed too is I bought into the perception that North America is better. They have a better electric system than we do here in terms of like just how they conserve energy. So there's like a design that they have for the outlets where it stops the current from flowing if you're not plugged in and not using it. We don't have that here in Canada. Current is always flowing. And I'm like, wow, they have have some of these solutions that we need in Canada there already, because we're led to believe that our countries are backwards and all of these things. So I got to live and see these real life things and some of the things that we do better than the North Americans. You know what I mean? So I didn't learn that in a classroom. I had to go to Ghana to see that. And as much as it's a privilege that I can speak multiple languages, when I stopped in South Africa for a few days, that was the first time in my life that I felt like alone. Because one, when South Africans saw me, they thought I was South African, and they would speak whatever dialect or language, and I'm trying to convince them I don't understand, and they're looking at me like, what do you mean you don't understand? Like, I didn't know what they were saying, but that's how they're looking at me. And I remember there was a time during one of the days of my trip, and I was like, I want to go out, but I don't know anybody. And the people that I did know were far away, and I have to take like an Uber, and like I'm by myself in this country, and I'm like, this is how newcomers come when they come to Canada. Like, how do my parents do this? Because it's very isolating as well. And so I had to go through that experience to at least get some understanding of how it feels like to leave your country, go to another country. And mind you, I didn't have to live there. I was only being there for a few days. So that was another lesson I took from the trip. And I just really observed how Ghanaians eat. That was also important to me, to see how do we engage with food. And when they wake up in the morning and they're having jollof rice or awache, I'm like, I thought that was dinner. No, so they eat heavy in the day, walk off and work off all of that food, and at night they have tea and go to bed. I'm like, that's how they look so good, you know? So it made me think about how I'm living my life here and how I'm eating. If I read that in a book, maybe I would have been inclined. But again, being immersed in it and seeing it, you know, that was all learning and lesson and teaching for me. So I try to incorporate all of those different ways of learning in addition to my formal education. I'm looking to really do a master's in culture and communication because I want to even understand in a diplomatic level, on a formal level, how does policy creation impact societal cultures as well. So I'm going to continue doing my formal education. I'm still going to learn from others. I'm still going to learn through travel, but I think it's important to have all those aspects so that I can also enrich those that I am training and teaching. If that's my calling, if that's my superpower, I have a responsibility to continue upgrading myself so I can continue to upgrade those around me. I can't be stagnant.
That's amazing, honestly, Rahel, because like I'm so grateful that we had this Wealth Talk, because like you really open up my mind, and hopefully for the viewers and listeners, you open up their minds as well in terms of communication, right? Because as I'm talking to you, you know, it's just, you know, a lot of things in terms of communication are really standing out to me. And I want to just go in even deeper, because you're talking about Ghana, right? When I went to Ghana, me and my wife went both for the first time, and this is when COVID was happening. So our trip actually got cut short when we came back. But one thing that I did experience was like the communication, even through eating. Like when there's food, everyone gathers. And everyone's eating together, and they're communicating, and they're you know, even eating each other's food. Right? Like it makes you so much more connected to each other. 100%. Right? And then, you know, when we come here, I feel like there's not much communication. Right? Even when I go for like a walk, and I'll walk by, and anytime I walk by, someone's like this. They put their head down, right? And you go to Ghana, or you go, you know, different places in the world. Everyone's greeting each other. Everyone's like welcoming each other. You know, so like let's dive into that. Like why is it like this?
So there's a really good resource that I found online that evaluates the different ways that different cultures communicate. And so they had, if you can imagine, a linear like line on the page, and then they put at the end of each one the different types or levels of communication that each culture would have. And so of course they didn't focus on African countries because I mean, why would they, right?
We have to bring that information out, right?
Maybe I'll add that to my to-do list.
For sure, definitely.
So they had countries like Russia, China, India, US, UK, and they kind of showed like how each culture communicates and how you should engage with them in these different aspects. So for example, certain cultures, the one I remember the most I think was China. You don't start with business, you start by finding out how the person is, how's their family, and that's very Ghanaian too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How are you, your family? Oh, this. Then, when you've checked on who and how that person is, now we can discuss business. In other cultures, you need to talk business. They don't care about your personal life, right? So all of those things, I would say, they're cultural.
Cultural, yeah.
And I think they're tied to values of the different people, depending on where they're from and how they've been socialized and groomed. So that's why you have that. And I know exactly what you're talking about. When I go for walks, most of the time, most people will look away or look down. But I also make sure I'm very intentional about looking at people.
Same
say
here, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, exactly.
You know, sometimes I even say hi before they pass.
Yeah,
you know?
and then they'll light up.
Yes.
You know, like when you say hi, it's like they've been wanting to say hi to you. But I think it's just maybe how it is over here.
Yeah.
I think maybe because everyone's so caught up in maybe their work or whatever like that. Yeah. So it's like a known thing. You don't say hi or something, like an unknown or unsaid a rule or something like that, right? But when you do say, what is it? Yeah.
It's called a norm.
A norm, right?
Yeah. So a norm happens when people repeat a certain behavior so often that it seems like that's the way. Even that's how culture is created as well. They come from norms. And so I really believe that norms and cultures can be changed, but it takes us to do it on a consistent basis over time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, even these different countries I was talking about, a lot of the ways that they are is because of norms and cultures that have been developed over time, that their people have adopted and accepted as them, but it could still change. Their children, the next generations coming up, might not accept that. Yeah. You know, and most of the time change comes from young people. Yeah. Whenever there's, you know, unrest or challenges, young people are the ones that usually spark a change in it. So I'm hopeful. Yeah. I'm hopeful. Yeah. I wanted to say something else when you're talking about people not greeting you when you walk by. But anyway.
No, it's something, and like you said, being intentional, that's something that I'm really intentional about now as well. Even on Canada Day, my son came out and we had a little barbecue, and my cousin and my son, we went for a walk, and everyone, we were intentional and say, oh, Happy Canada Day, right? And then they'll say, oh, Happy Canada Day, right? There was one person who walked by us, right? And then my son's like, Dad, how come he didn't say anything? Yeah. Right? Like my son was like so shocked that this person just walked by us. Right? And I didn't really have an answer for him. Who knows? Who knows what, and that's what you were talking about earlier. When you don't say something, it's also a form of communication.
100%.
Right? And that's what happens. So it's kind of like an unusual thing that my son had to ask a question, because he didn't ask, oh, how come everybody's saying hi? Or saying it back to us. It's when that one person did something that was out of the norm, right? And then he said, oh, how come he didn't say hi? and like you said, you learn from your children because they're growing up into this and they're creating the norm. And you know, if this was kind of out of the norm for my son in this case, right? So definitely being intentional and you know, saying hi to people, because it's like people do want to say hi, right? And people from other cultures, back home, that's what they're doing. So like you said, because here it is the norm, everyone kind of wants to fit in a sense, and they feel, oh, this is the way you do it over here. Right? But is that really going to help us grow? Is that really going to bring our community together? Because this is a community. It is. You know, we're with other different nationalities, but it is a community because we're all together, right?
100%. I thank you for recapping that. You reminded me what I wanted to say, and when you brought up your son and the norms. So when I go out with my children, I will talk to people, and this is the question they always ask me. Oh, Mom, do you know them? I'm like, no, I just met them right now. They're like, so why are you talking to them like that? I'm like, I'm talking to them like they're a human being. You know. So it's important that like people feel that you're not strangers. You know, and how you communicate. And I think it's for me, it's concerning that my children ask if I know people when I speak to them, because it means that they're also being influenced by this culture where you mind your business, you know, you don't engage with people. That's very lonely. Human beings were created to be connected. Or else we wouldn't have two people. When you're born to two people, whether they're present or not, you're born to two people. You were never meant to be by yourself, right? So you have to really look at how this world was designed, the principles of how things were designed, and understand that. In countries like South Africa, if you have only one parent, you're considered an orphan. They believe that it takes two people to raise one human being, you know? And then, of course, we have the whole, it takes a village.
For sure. Definitely.
So those are some of the African principles. And so that's why, yes, if you go to, you know, African nations and nations with those similar values, people are greeting you because they understand that we are all one. We are all connected. And the least respect you can give to another human being is showing that you see them. Yes,
that's amazing. And I want us to go into like, because you're talking about your humility, right? And you know, this is something that I feel it will be really good to get out, because you know, we are living in this social world, right? And lately, like, and I experience, I'm sure you experience it, where a lot of times when people reach out to you, it's like they're reaching out to you with something that they want from you, kind of like, you know, like where they're going in with, it's not like
a mutual.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't feel like they want to get to know you. It feels more like they want to get something from you, right? So in terms of communicating, right, and in terms of actually even with us as people and coming together, like I want you to talk about that, like the ego, and you know, how do we take that back? Why is it that we're reaching out to people when we want something? Why are we not reaching out to people to see what they need? You know, more, if anything, it should be like you said, it has to be like a full circle where it's, you know, everyone's kind of benefiting from, right?
That's a great question, and honestly, it's something I've been discussing with my husband, and I'm processing myself, because lately I've been getting like LinkedIn requests from people that I don't even know, asking me to help them find work, and I'm like, I don't know you. I don't have work. Like, I'm not sure why you're asking me. Like, you know. So yes, and even sometimes as someone that's been in faculty, like I love to give references for my students, especially those that I know have done well, and even those that maybe they didn't do well, but I saw their effort. You know. But sometimes students don't stay in touch with me, and it's been, I don't know, 7 years. I don't know what you're up to.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hey, Rahel, I want to use you for a reference, but I don't know what you've done in the last 7 years. How am I going to speak to these questions that they will ask me? They don't think about those things. You know. So just giving you that context before I give you the answer. Okay. So number one, how do we address this? Before I reach out to you for help, I need to think about what will it require of you to help me in this way. So I'll think, okay, first it's your time. You're gonna take time to send me information or talk to people on my behalf. Do you have family? Are you well? Like, what might be some of the barriers to you even helping me? And what would you need from me? Even if they're not thinking about what I need, they have to think about what will I need from them to help them. People don't even do that simple. So it's really going back to what I was saying about how do we communicate effectively. We have to think about the result, like what are we trying to achieve, and then we draft our message. Okay, so that's still a consistent principle no matter what we're doing and how we're communicating. So putting ourselves in the person's shoes, thinking about what they will need. There's another thing I wanted to share about that too. I think just really, when we go back to culture and norms, people have this mindset that it's like, I'm just getting mine. And there's this belief that people are doing things overnight. There's also a belief that, I'm trying to think of these slogans that people have. Like basically they did it on their own.
Yeah.
You know,
self-made and
self-made. Thank you. All of those things.
Yeah.
None of it is true.
Facts.
None of it is true. So in order for some of this to change, our culture and our language needs to change. We also need to take the time to break down what does self-made mean. I could say I'm self-made, right?
Yeah.
There's things I did for myself by myself,
Yeah.
but guess what? It started somewhere, and there's been people that have been feeding into me and who I am. Even you having this space and time and platform, you don't know who I am like before this.
For sure.
But if somebody hears my message and purchase something from my business, nothing about that was self. You understand what I'm trying to say? So a lot of it has to do with just the mindset and what's being communicated, how it's being communicated. I remember one time I was reading an article and it was like, this person achieved something overnight. But when you read the article, you saw all the work that they had done until it blew up. So people think that these things have to happen immediately. I was doing a presentation for a group of university students, a workshop, and we were talking about policy, and I was talking about the time it takes and how it's a process. And even if we want to make change, it's not going to necessarily happen today. And if it does happen today, it's because of the work that other people did before us. And having that mindset and having those values. And they said, a situation happened and they reached out and the decision makers did not respond. But then they got a newspaper article written and in 1 year, things changed. I said, that's amazing. If you were able to make change in 1 year, it took 50 years for the Canadian government to even have or take action about affordable childcare, where it's $10 a day. It took 50 years. People have been working on this for 50 years. So I think people go into a lot of these things without the right context. Again, going back to communication. So we don't have context. So we think that we can just reach out to somebody. We're not thinking about what time they have or effort or any of those things. We're not thinking about the work that other people have done, are doing, and will be doing before and after and during us. Like all of that is missing. And so for all those reasons, the humility is not there. Understanding that others have done the work and I will have to do the work. So one of my clients is the city of Mississauga. They have a summer company. And so I mentor some of the small business young people, and then they also have like another program for adults with businesses as well. I was talking to one of them, and they're like, "Rahel, I've been posting for 2 weeks, and I haven't heard from anybody. I didn't mean to, but I had to laugh." I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, do you know that human beings need to see things minimum 9 times? Minimum 9 times to respond. Minimum. Okay? You definitely need to do it more than 9 times. And I don't know what the recent statistics is right now, but I know a few years ago, if you were to pay for social ads and those kind of things, you need to have had your information online for at least 9 months. Before people would start paying attention and acting on it. So context, again, people are not doing their homework. They think that they're the first ones experiencing things or doing things for the first time. And I mean, I'm sorry to say, but laziness. I don't want to do the work. I see that you've done the work. You can just give me access. So do it. It's entitlement, huh? That's the best word. There's this culture of entitlement right now. And it's scary. It shows up in education, it shows up in the workplace, and it shows up in family. So, that culture has come from different things. You know how I've said that communication has evolved over time. So now, because we have tools to communicate right away, we don't respect the value and intention of words, and we can get responses today,
Yeah.
right now, this second, and we expect responses today, right now, this second, and understanding even professionalism. I find, for example, sometimes I'll have students that will email me and say, you know, they need help with something or they have a question. If they email me at 1 p.m., they'll email me again at 1:30. Oh, I emailed you and you didn't respond. In 30 minutes, am I sitting in front of the computer waiting? Oh, can't wait for this email to come. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So just teaching people like different standards, like in the professional field, and you need to give people a minimum of 2 business days to respond to you. And then during COVID, I would say make it 3. Since COVID, everybody's moving slower. Make it 3 days. And your lack of preparation is not my emergency.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying? So you do your due diligence. I always say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So people are not doing the due diligence. Now it's your problem. They need you to connect. And so anyway, I can go on and on.
Yeah, no, that's sweet. No, I like that. Yeah, if you stay ready, if you don't have to get ready. I want you to go deeper into that.
Well, I think if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So it goes back to thinking things through. Like everything I'm telling you, I'm gonna feel like you're gonna feel like I'm repeating because they're all principles I'm sharing with you. So if I've taken the time to say, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Okay, so today I'm coming to this office. What do I need to in order to get to this office? I have to already think about what am I going to be wearing so that I can leave and get here at the time that we've discussed. Okay, I need to get my app. I use Waze to see how long, how much time, when should I be leaving my home. I have to think about my children, the time that I'm leaving, will they have meals? Like all of these kind of things, I have to have prepared. I brought my makeup bag. It's in the car just in case. I was like, I want to see how I look on camera just in case.
You look nice. You look
Thank you. But because I thought all those things through, I have the things that I need with me. And so when things happen quickly now, it's okay. Let me just run to the car and get my this. Not I have to go home or all of these kind of things. So it goes back to again really thinking about okay, what is the goal? What is it going to take to get there? And putting those things in place to prepare yourself. To take action.
No, I like that. So. You gotta say it again. You gotta stay ready. Say. I want that. That's a big quote right there.
So if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
You stay ready. You don't have to get ready. And before we wrap up, I want us to talk about the motherland. I want us to talk about Ghana because you were even saying there's all these studies and they have all these other countries and with Africa, it's not as now I guess we're getting more recognition. More people are going down. I have a lot of friends from different parts of the world that they hear about Africa, and even meeting when I meet people at a time, Ghanaian. Oh, I have a Ghanaian friend. I love Ghanaians. So we're out there. So from the skills that you have and what how are you going to translate this information to help the motherland?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, so one thing we didn't talk about is that my parents have been an example of being business owners. So not only did they tell me, if you want to make it in Canada, you have to have a business, they also are business owners. So they have an import and export company called End Time Harvest. And so they ship containers from Canada to Ghana. And so that's one aspect of how I'm kind of connecting to the motherland and the business that my parents run. And I'm constantly talking to them about what will it mean when they're ready to retire and what are some of the things that they can put in place to improve the business. Especially when I was talking about automation and IT and improving and not being behind as Black folks to incorporate those kind of things in the business. I had the privilege of meeting the CEO of Perlator at an event a few weeks ago, and just hearing how he ran the shipping company, especially during COVID, to even learn aspects of how can we incorporate some of that into Ghana. So what that will mean is right now my parents are very this with the business and doing things their way because I'm just their child. But when I have, when it is my turn and I can help expand it, that will mean work opportunities and training and getting skills. I'm gonna add that aspect to your business.
Nice.
I also started a business with 2 friends of mine who also became clients called Foreign Exposure. And what we do is we bring young people from Ghana to Canada so that they can get exposed to Canadian culture. One of the barriers that a lot of Africans face when they're adults and they want to travel, visa is denied because they have not traveled before. So we want to deal with that issue from when they're young, so they have a history of coming to Canada, and they can also be open to being educated abroad, right, and make connections and feel some form of connection from a younger age. So as adults or young adults that want to come to a foreign country to study, work, whatever, they have that experience. And then our hope is to also bring young people from Canada to Ghana to be exposed to their culture and so forth. So I hope that's good enough.
No, of course, that's amazing. That's amazing. No, it's just something that because I see you're passionate and I see you care for people and and this is how we make it happen. By having discussions, by communicating. Yeah.
100%.
No, so I honestly, this is an amazing wealth talk. Any final words that you want to go give off before we wrap up?
100%. So as the founding director of 1000 Training Consulting. I would love for you to visit our website, 1000.ca. Check out our online courses, reach out to me about mentorship and coaching, and continue to work on your communication skills, because the better skills you have, the better opportunities and solutions you can be for other people too.
Okay, that's amazing. Any other social tags do you have that you can share?
Yes. So I have a YouTube channel, which is 1000.
So it's ONE,
yes.
1 and then
000.
Okay,
you got it. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that. So it's 1 ONE and then the number 1 and then 000. And then on Instagram, same thing. 1 ONE, the number 1 and then 000 TC though, which stands for Training Consulting. And you can also find our business on LinkedIn as well under 1000 Training Consulting. So I look forward to hearing from you.
All right. So Rahel, thank you so much. We appreciate this walk talk. You're amazing.
Oh,
you give such good information.
I forgot to share the free booklet.
Yes. Okay. Please do. Please. Yes.
So if you email me at info at the word 1 ONE 1000 .ca. I will add you to my newsletter list, and we will also send you a free booklet on just how to get started with improving your communication as well. And I'm sure you're going to share a link.
Yep, for sure.
A link will be shared too that you can actually download and save the booklet. So
And I do want to really thank you because you went deep into communication. Because honestly, I thought it was just verbal communication, but communication. It's like there's a big spectrum. It doesn't just stop at verbal. Obviously, yes, we know body language is communication, but also the process that you're actually running your business through, or even the process that you're even teaching your children or whatever. Everything that you're doing is communication.
Everything we do, and a lot of times, even though people take my communication courses for professional development or companies hire me to train their teams. They'll come back and say, Rahel, it helped me at work, but it helped me with my family. It helped me with my friends. It helped me in my personal life. Because what I'm teaching you is so fundamental. You can use it in every aspect of everything you do. I promise. So,
that's amazing. God bless you. We appreciate you. And thank you for your service. And thank you for joining us on the Walk Out podcast. But then you're always welcome as well. There's something that, we just want to be an outlet, to get the information out there. And you got loads of information. You dropped many gems. Watch us over and over and over. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity and what you're doing here as well. God bless you.
Thank you. That's the Walk Out podcast. All right.
Take care.